Okay, so this incident involved a fire in a small one-story house in Dothan, Alabama. Call came in the morning, 8:07 on August 17th, back in 2014. And so, if we look at the map, one of the things that's kind of interesting is that the only hydrant in the immediate vicinity is not on the street where the incident occurred. It's about a block away on an adjacent street, and that didn't compromise incident operations, but it's just a little bit of a complication that the crews had to deal with.
Did they catch the hydrant before they got to the fire? Do you know?
No, the first in company came in and went to work, so that would make Lars smile. And
Good job,
you know,
guys.
in this particular instance, given that this agency had multiple engines responding and they were all staffed and so
Yeah.
forth, that doesn't present any sort of significant issue. There was a little bit of delay in establishing water supply. Companies kind of came in and then they had to go back and get the hydrant and so forth. But again, didn't compromise incident operations given the size of the fire and what was going on. The house was
Did did
kind
they-
of
did they know the involvement on the way out? Did they know if it how involved the house was when they?
I don't believe so. It was simply with smoke showing when they arrived. I mean, it was an obvious working fire, but I mean, they had smoke showing, but they didn't have flames coming out the window or anything like that when they arrived. And I don't know what information they had on dispatch that wasn't available to me. But it was kind of set back in the trees a little bit. So as you're approaching the incident, your view of the Bravo side of the building is obscured on approach, and then when they arrived in the front, they had a pretty good view. The house had a front porch. It's kind of an L-shaped house, and had a front porch around a significant portion of that, and that served as a little bit of a smoke trap as the crews arrived and began to come to work. Access to the back was obstructed with a wood fence, and I don't know if that had a lock on it, or if the gate was unlocked, so that whether or not they could have gone around back to have a look. And in the back of the house, there was a swimming pool and another like a covered patio area at the rear of the house. So the adaptation of the story that I used in the case is that you're dispatched to this fire at 702 Lakeview Drive at 8:07. You're responding as a company officer or AIC. You have a crew of 3. You're responding from the west on Lakeview Drive. Temperatures 69 F, and so low 20s C. And another engine with staffing level of 2 will arrive 5 minutes after you, and a command officer 2 minutes later. There's other companies coming, but they'll arrive after the command officer arrives. So I guess for me, being dispatched on this, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Depending upon the demographics of the neighborhood, 8 in the morning, people still could be in bed. For me, that would be like way late, day's half over. But some people get up later than that. Particularly in the summertime, if they've got teenage kids, it's a fair probability they are still in bed. So that would be one thing to be thinking about, the possibility of occupants. The other thing would be the fact that there is no hydrant in our path of travel, and there's not one right in the immediate vicinity of the house. So we're going to need to think about having another company take care of that. And I guess those are the big things for me that would jump out. And I guess as far as the crew assignments, if we're going to a fire in a house, the guy that's in, and we're not going to stop and take a hydrant, the firefighter that's in the back is going to be on the nozzle. They're going to stretch a line. assuming that we have a fire, and I would probably make that assumption. And so I would want them to be ready to do that work once we arrived and figured out what it is that we actually had.
And I would have one firefighter grabbing a dry chem, as if nothing else, if it's not a big fire when we get there, grabbing a dry chem, objective, run around, see if they can find the fire and address it somewhere. I would have the second firefighter looking for where smoke travel is, where we have smoke spread, identifying which rooms do we have smoke or not, closing doors if possible while searching before they close, after they see people. And probably the third one, if it's a small house, probably not helping the two others. They will probably start preparing hose lines as soon as I am ready with my first order, which is probably going to do pretty fast. That the driver and the third firefighter would start to drag a hose line to the front of the structure, but that's not until I make a decision that that's the most optimal way of placing the fire truck first and then stretching a hose line. So I want two firefighters to work with basically identifying the fire and try to do something about it, and identifying where there's smoke spread and doing something about it, while I assess the situation and try to make a decision where to deploy that hose line.
Mm-hmm.
But I have 4 firefighters with me in this scenario.
Well, that makes things a little bit different.
It's a luxury. Absolutely.
It's always better to have more help than less help.
Well, to a point, I guess.
As long as they do good work.
To a point, as long as you don't have anarchy.
Yeah. If we take a look at the incident video or the screenshot from about 3 seconds into the incident video, what we can see is that the wind is blowing from the west. That would be from Bravo to Delta, and that there's you can see the portion of the house that's on side Bravo with some smoke pushing out from the gable vent in the end of the roof. And quite a bit of light-colored smoke visible, kind of blowing across the rest of the house, so that it's difficult to see exactly what it is that's going on, other than that it's obvious that there's a fire in the house.
Yeah, we could probably in the window on the Bravo side, you can, I guess, see straight through the house there. Or no, maybe that's. No, it looks like in the bottom left of the corner of the window. Is that something?
I think that's a reflection.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, I think that's a reflection. But given the smoke that's pushing out from the attic space, that either could be a fire that's extended into the attic, or as the fire that we had last night, there was some air conditioning and heating ductwork in the ceiling that the fire had melted the plastic ductwork, and smoke had pushed up into the roof void. So it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly where the fire is, or the seat of the fire is at this point in time. But given the fact that there's a fence that goes around the back of the house, that may make that a little bit more difficult to access. There are requirements. If you have a swimming pool in your backyard, there has to be a fence so kids don't fall into it and so forth. And that may or may not be locked, or it could just be latched from the inside, and we don't know that.
I would, in my building construction, I would anticipate, if I see that much development on the attic, I mean, that would be a substantial fire to get fire spread up to the attic. I mean, that would be a really developed fire to get fire up in the attic, unless it started in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, typically, I mean, there's always one-off cases, but I would assume that. So if I were to see that, and I see that the house is filled with smoke, I would anticipate that being a fairly developed fire inside that house. Probably indicate that if it's all locked down, but it's still pretty hot.
Yeah, I would agree. Given the volume of smoke and the color of smoke coming from the gable vent, and then some dark smoke kind of coming from that porch area,
Yeah.
which is probably coming from either windows or doorway at the front of the house. Now, one of the things that we don't see is we don't see any cars in the yard, which that doesn't necessarily mean there's nobody home. But if there were cars, that would be another indicator that maybe we do have somebody in there. But again, I would still make the assumption that this house is occupied.
Oh yeah, I would the same.
So initial radio report for us, it would be that the engine is on scene of a small one-story house at a working fire. Uh, Stretching an attack line to site alpha for fire control will be in the offensive strategy, initiating Lakeview Command, and will continue the first alarm assignment. So that would be the bits that we would put into a initial radio report, given what I see here.
I wouldn't say anything what we're supposed to do because I don't know yet. But I would just describe the situation. We got a single-story house. You know, what's the situation? What's the damage? I see smoke coming from both the porch side and the attic, so possibly a fire inside the house and also now it's extending to the attic. And I would transmit possibly people trapped inside, which is
Okay.
whatever that. I wouldn't specify what I'm gonna do because I don't know yet. We had the discussion also before because I don't think it's possible. Because I don't want to stretch a hose line to A side yet. I want to have a firefighter around the backside. See, is there something more? Is there something on the backside that has a higher priority than stretching a hose line to A side? Maybe that the fire started on the outside of A side and it's working its way up to the attic and also into the house. That's the smoke we're seeing. Maybe there's people back there that we need to help. I don't know. So I want to have that 360. Maybe not do it myself. Again, I'm using the firefighters on my truck to do that initial 360 before I have the time. I'm busy doing interviewing people and so on. So I don't want to. I would say I can't talk about what I want to do because I don't know yet.
Well, I guess from our context, again, not five people, but three people in this case. If I know that it takes 90 seconds for them to pull a line, have it stretched to alpha, have water in it, and ready to go to work, I know there's probably going to be less than that for me to get a peek around the backside and see what's going on. If I want them to move the line to side Charlie, I'll just tell them to move it to side Charlie, and they'll do that. But it's got to come off the rig in any case. So I don't see the taking it to alpha in this instance as being a big issue, because we're either going to go there or we're going to go to the back. If it's an outside fire that's extending up the back wall and into the attic space, then we're going to go to Charlie and we're going to put water on the fire that's on the outside first. If it's not, if the fire's inside the house, then probably the most direct path is going to be for us to stretch through the front door in this particular instance. So that would be the logic behind that. But I can see if you have five people and you can do more than one thing at a time, that you have some other options.
Yeah, and I mean, you could make. I mean, yes, I sort of agree. I mean, you can make the case that
you don't have to.
No, but I'm not doing it just because you're a nice guy, Ed. I'm because I sort of agree, but like I can surely make that. I mean, the most likely outcome in that fire is that we're going to stretch a hose line to A side and move into A side. That's the most likely outcome. So I mean, in that case, so in that sense, it's a good guess. Is it a big problem if you want to stretch it to the backside? No. If you don't have to move the fire truck, if that was a house on a corner, it may be much faster just to move the fire truck to get to Charlie's side in certain instances. And if you put the hose line in play, it's very hard to move the fire truck and do that afterwards. Is that likely? Probably not this either, and that might impact on if you do it or not. Now of course the advantage is, like you say, you get the hose line in play faster, of course, and I would say it's a bit of a gamble. Maybe not a bad gamble, but still a gamble. And like you said, if you have more manpower, you can do the same. You can have the driver and the third firefighter, in my context, hold off for 10-20 seconds before we can run to the backside and confirm that we're going to go through A side, and still have two firefighters using a dry cam and possibly using a dry cam and closing doors and so on. So that will happen in the meantime anyway. So the penalty for waiting is not very, very long. Again, the guy closing the door is still searching the close area through openings and so on. So we're still doing a lot of, I would say, good things while holding off on the hose line until we know it's the best placement. So I'm sort of agreeing, but on the other hand, if I had only very few people, it's very critical to get the first hose line in the right position, because moving it is equally hard if you have few people. It gets equally delayed. So I guess, I mean, maybe it's up. Maybe it's up to like the gut feeling, which is your assessment of how likely is it that you are going to go through A side. And if you're feeling unsure that you want to go through A side, you hold it off. But if you're feeling confident, or at least somewhat confident, you're going through A side, you shoot for the A side and hope that's to be the case.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is if I looked at this and I said, I really don't know at all where I'm going to need to put this hose line, because this is very complicated, then I might hold off on making that assignment. But looking at this, even if I have a fire that's on the outside that's gone up the wall and into the attic, eventually I'm going to need a line going to the A side, because that's the principal access to the house. So if they stretch a line to Alpha and it turns out that they got the line charged, and I need a line around to side Charlie, I have four pre-connected attack lines on my engine. So it's not a big delay for the firefighter to simply walk 50 feet back to the engine, grab another one, and go around to the backside. Now I have one in each place.
That's a good add-on, because the pre-connect town lines are faster to deploy than our system, which is just the station I'm in right now. We got donut rolls. It's not a fast system. We don't even have Cleveland loads, which I would love to have. We got donut rolled hose lines, and it's not a fast system. And it's just stubborn people trying to justify history. I'm not saying donut rolled hoses are bad for every situation, but they're definitely not good for a majority. And so good call. I mean, stretching a hose line especially here when if you got the hose lines on the vertically over the sideways of the fire truck.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's super quick. It's straight out to pull a hose line, so it's really fast. So that's a good add-on. And with that add-on, I admit my defeat. I think it's a good. No, I think that it's a good one. I didn't think about that one, because it is a difference. Again, a second line for us would take more time. Not much, but still. So okay.
So kind of one of the bits that I didn't have is there is no video of the side Charlie, so we don't know what's going on over there, other than the fact that I do know that the fire wasn't there. The fire was inside the house.
I mean, you can sort of see it like you see through the smoke. If you had a fire on Charlie's side, you would see more. You would see more smoke and possibly even flames shooting up on the backside of the house. So
So
looking.
my assumption is that you'd have conditions that look a little bit like what you have here, given a wind blowing from Bravo to Delta. You would probably have some smoke coming from the eaves and blowing to the other side of the house. So I would not modify the assignments given to my crew based on what it is that I see in the back. And and given that my update would basically be that the 360 is complete, that we're continuing in the offensive strategy, and that the engine will be the accountability location on site alpha, which means that's where people will check in and drop their accountability tags and so forth as they get assignments and go to work. Also, that there's no basement, which again, given in the location where this house is, that part of the country, a basement would be very unusual. But in our area or Midwest or northeastern part of the country, basements are very common, and we definitely want to know if there is one, and if there is, if it has an exterior access or not, and whether or not there's a fire in it.
Yeah, and I think that that's the blue card add-on. They really emphasize the basement, which I think is a very good one because, as we know, it's been a problem a lot of times when firefighters dying. We have been, I would say we should really emphasize also in Sweden the importance of identifying basements, and we have a lot of basements. Now, I think this one of the reasons that we're not doing it is because we don't have the same problem with floor collapse from on the floor on the first floor, because you very rarely have unfinished basements with the structural beams unexposed, which is, I don't know if we talked about this before, but at least some of the parts of the United States, I understand it's a tax issue. If you don't finish your basement, it doesn't count as like floor area, and it's cheaper. And then
sometimes it's just a cost issue.
Yeah, sometimes maybe it's just a cost issue, but there's a lot more exposed structural membranes in the United States, which causes this ridiculously early floor collapses on the first floor, which has caused, of course, a lot of problems. And then you have the problem with having a flow path up the stairs. But that would be the same in Sweden. But again, the second one there would be with floor collapses. I've never heard of anyone falling through a floor in Sweden. It's just two sturdy buildings. I mean, it's still wood, but they're protected at least as long as we can get the scene and do something about it. And if we can't do anything about it, by the time the house is still gone anyway. So we should be better at addressing that, at least for this purpose of identifying if there's a basement, if there seems to be a fire in it, that we're not in the wrong side of the flow path. So I think that there's improvements to be done there in Sweden too. So I think it's good that you add that to your first initial report as a important caution.
So one of the other questions is having looked at the video a little bit more of the incident video from about 1:30 to 6:10. Question about what stage of fire development and burning regime is encountered, and then what building smoke, air track, heat, and flame indicators provide evidence of that. And I think you had mentioned this earlier about, based on your observations initially, that it's likely the fire has gone into decay, and so we've got a ventilation limited decay stage fire, at least until we start to change the ventilation profile of the building and make some openings. Yeah, at 1:30 they're stretching the line, and so I think if we watch that and wait till they charge the line and make entry into there's some distinct changes that are going on with fire behavior. We can see smoke starting to push from the edge of the roof a little bit more. The volume and the velocity of smoke is increasing. You get some kind of brownish, yellowish brown smoke starting to push out from that gable vent, which leads me to believe that they probably opened up the door and increased the airflow to the fire. And until they get water on the fire, things are going to continue to get worse.
Yeah, is that a reflection you see on the the other side on the A side window? Is that actually flames you see on?
At what time?
At 2:08.
Let me back up.
That's got to be that has to be flames you see in.
I think it is over there to the right in that window.
Yeah.
Because that was where the fire originated, was over on the Charlie Delta corner.
But it looks like the window is intact, so that's enough oxygen for combustion there. And the big good question is that because of they opened the door, or was there still enough oxygen in there to sustain flame and combustion? And I don't know. It's hard to tell if they opened the door or not, but it's quite possible, like you said, because it's pushing out of the eaves. And
yeah, I think, given the increase in the volume and velocity of smoke that's coming forth, and where we did not see that flaming combustion previously, but now we do, I would hazard a guess that the nozzle firefighter probably has opened the door, and it's not being controlled. Particularly given that this was back in 2014, where door control was not a real common concept in the United States, where in the past it was typically taught, open the door and let whatever is going to happen before you go inside.
It's the Dutch method also. Wait 3 seconds. If there's no backdraft within 3 seconds, it's good to go. And that, at least it was. It's not still. I hope not still. But so now I'm at 338, and we're seeing some significant more buoyant gases coming from the porch.
Yep.
So there definitely has been an opening made, and they're probably advancing through. But based on, I don't know if there's suppression going on, but it's fairly white smoke, but that could be. It doesn't have to be from suppression, but it's getting like at 408. I'm right now, and it's getting wider and wider. So I would assume suppression is going on right now. And it's the buoyancy is getting less, and then definitely you can see suppression happening. So now they're making good progress on that. Not on the attic fire, that's still pumping, but the first floor fire is definitely making progress.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit more white smoke, but if you look over towards the Bravo side, both from the gable vent and also through the trees towards the back, you can see that there's a fair bit of dark smoke that's pushing out back there. It just started to turn white.
Yeah.
So they may have started to get some water up into the attic.
Yeah, the attic. Okay, I'm at 5 minutes right now, and the attic started to look better. I know. I mean, it's got to be if they got water on the attic that fast, it's got to be a fair bit of it's gonna be a fair hole in the fire compartment up to the attic, which they can flow water at least partially into. Or you have actually from the first compartment, when they do suppression on the first floor, the steam goes up through that hole and up into the attic and do suppression on the attic.
Particularly if some of the gypsum board on the ceiling had dropped due to the effects of the fire, and then they start to suppress the fire, then steam is gonna go up there.
That's highly temporary though, until that initial push going to create a lot of steam, and that's going to go up regardless of your nozzle. It's going to create a lot of steam, but that's going to quickly die out, and that attic fire is going to pick up again unless you follow up with some water up in the attic.
Yeah, agreed. So one of the things with as I looked at this, the first arriving engine, the crew on the first arriving engine, they moved with purpose to get that pre-connected hose line off the rig and in place. They were using a load called the triple fold or the triple load, and one of the things that I noticed is that the hose is kind of twisted over itself and so forth, which makes it a little bit more difficult to extend the line on the inside because you've got to overcome a lot of friction that's created by the tangle of hose on the exterior. So again, that's one of those things where maybe taking a little bit of time to make sure that your hose is managed properly outside before you start to stretch on the inside can actually save you some time in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it would be, I'm not saying we're good at this in Sweden, but it would be the guys standing on the outside now dressing up. I mean, just take 5 seconds and arrange those hose lines now. It wouldn't be a big deal to do that. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it would help a lot, like you said, for the people inside if they want to stretch further.
Yeah, and if we kind of jump ahead, I actually had a question in the case. How many firefighters and officers walk by the tangled and kinked first attack line without taking definitive action to correct the problem?
Yeah.
And you can see the guys from the truck company that are masking up in the front yard, and there's a whole bunch of kinks and twisted line. I mean, some kinks that are 180-degree kinks in the hose line, which is definitely going to have an impact on flow from the attack line. So, I think that hose on the ground for some guys, hose on the ground tends to be wallpaper. Well, it's not my line, so I'm going to focus on what it is that I'm doing, or maybe an unconscious focusing on the work at hand and not thinking about the other things that are going on around you, because it would be very simple for any number of people that walk by this to simply stop and to chase the kinks out of the line. Anybody that walks by it should stop and take care of that.
Well, I agree. I mean, there's this saying where you never pass a kink in the hose line. Like
Mhm.
you just don't, regardless of what job you have. Now, I mean, I wouldn't take it that far. If someone is jumping from third window, you stop to address a kink. Maybe that's not the most important one, but still. Oh, we had a driver here at 6:15 who at least addressed one of the serious kinks.
Yeah, and he eventually did that, and for us, we typically say that at least within 50 feet of the rig, the engineer is responsible for that. If he can see them from further away, then that's fine as well. But there were lots of other people that had the opportunity to take maybe 2 or 3 seconds to help solve this problem. Um, One of the other questions that I asked in here, did the members of the first arriving engine and ladder companies appear to look at incident conditions such as the fire behavior indicators? It's difficult to say, but when I watch these guys work, most of them were looking either at the ground or they were looking straight ahead or at what it was they were doing, and were not looking up and looking around at what sorts of conditions were present. Again, it's difficult to say because their field of vision is still pretty wide, and they may have observed these things, but I questioned whether or not they were looking at that smoke that was pushing out of that gable vent and saying, I see that conditions are changing. The fire in the attic is not necessarily getting better yet. Whether they were recognizing those things or not. And again, it's difficult to say. Could be that they knew about it and they had a plan in their mind and so forth. But I think an important thing when we look at indicators, whether it be related to the building or to fire behavior, that as we're approaching the incident, that we start off when we're getting off the rig and we've got a wide field of view, and we take all that in and we continue to look up and down and around, which is sort of a saying that our wildland folks use, is look up, look down, look around, as it relates to identifying hazards. But in this case, it relates also to identifying what is it that's going on. What conditions do I have? How are tactics changing things?
Yeah, I'm watching. I mean, we can. I have no idea what they're doing. Like you said, it's hard to tell. But we definitely agree on that. It's important for firefighters to recognize that look at what's happening, not just where you're going, but also in the round of the structure. I'm looking at the section at like 150 to 210, back and forth when they drag that hose line down. There is a, I mean, you can see at 150, you can see at how much smoke and velocity and so on coming from the porch. I mean, you can see there's a lot of smoke inside the porch there. You can't even see the door where they are. But you see, if you just snap back to 210, now you're starting getting more smoke out of the porch area. And at the same time, that's a period where the flaming combustion at least started to become visible through the smoke. And you also see, I don't know if say it's a big difference, but it might be a difference on the eaves too.
Yep.
So I would bet my money on that there was a door open there at 150 or 140, 150 or 2 minutes or something. But I don't know. It might be something else. Maybe our window broke on the second on Charlie's side. Who knows?
Yep, could be.
But that would just be that's what I would bet my money. And if you go back to 230 or something, it's very obvious that there's a difference here in the porch where we got more smoke pushing out. And when you're at 3 minutes, now you got rolling smoke coming out of the porch. So at that point, somebody the door was opened, and you can probably see it. You probably can see it where the lines start to go in. I haven't found it when you actually see a line advancement. When they actually move in. Do you have that time?
Yeah, it looks like at about 3:10, the firefighter that was masking up in the front yard, he started to pull hose towards the front door, and his helmet's still sitting on the ground. So I think that probably the guys that were on the nozzle and the backup position on the hose line, they probably were calling for more hose. So he started to pull hose before he finished getting himself dressed. And right there at 3:12, you can see that going on, and you can see the fire is really starting to pick up in that window. But it appears that window is still intact, because we don't see flames coming out and rolling the underside of the porch.
Yeah, I would guess so too. Yeah, definitely. So it might be that they breached the door at 2 minutes or something, and they started advancing maybe 20, 30 seconds later, and at I would guess. Let's see, when you start seeing suppression, definitely happens. You use a flaming combustion, you see at the camera turns away. But flaming combustion you see at 320, then camera moves away, and then you come back at 340. And at 340, you still have heavy rolling smoke coming out of the porch, but you don't see flames in the fire compartment. So I would see they're making progress, and you start to see suppression happen in the fire compartment then, and at 356, you really see a lot of white smoke coming out of now a broken window in the fire compartment. So at 350, you got a broken window at the fire compartment. But question is, did they break it, or did it break by hose, or was it open before? But it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look open.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it was open before, because with that porch roof there, you likely would have had flames extending to the underside of the porch roof and some sort of flaming combustion taking place there.
Yeah, because it wasn't a wind from that direction, so you wouldn't think that would be unidirectional. In that case, it would be other openings on the back side, which it could be, but I wouldn't get a unidirectional flow from that with wind coming from that angle.
I mean, and one of the things that's a little bit of concern is that you have that dark smoke coming from the complete opposite end of the house, and the guys on the hose line, I don't know exactly what they were doing on their way to the fire, but there's been a number of instances where people have crawled underneath an attic fire going to the fire compartment, and then ended up with ceiling dropping behind them and things like that, and causing a bit of a problem. So I don't know. They may have checked the overhead and determined that no, there's no fire out there. It's just full of smoke. But again, something that I would definitely be thinking about as soon as I went through the door would be checking to see if I've got fire in that attic space over my head. and that I'm crawling along underneath that without knowing so. Doesn't necessarily have to be a big hole, but poking a small opening in the ceiling to see whether or not there's fire up there. Also looking with a thermal imager, but again recognizing that that's only going to read the surface temperature of the gypsum board on the ceiling, not necessarily anything that's going on up above.
You know, in my kinds, you wouldn't see a damn thing because there's like 50 millimeters of insulation there.
Well, too, and depending upon the age and the area of
Yeah.
the country, we have the same thing. In fact, I was having a conversation about that with the lieutenant that was working last night, because she had encountered a fire once before where there was cellulose insulation and there was a fire burning on top of it, and she couldn't see any sort of heat signature from below. But yet, when the smoke in the compartment cleared a little bit, and you looked up through the opening that they had made in the ceiling, you could see smoke coming off of it. And it's like, okay, we have to use both the thermal imager and your eyes, because your eyes will tell you one thing, the thermal imager will tell you something else. You put both of them together, and now you have a better picture.
Yeah, I would agree. That's very important. You know, no, the thermal image is a fantastic tool, but so is our eyes and ears, for that matter. If you're going inside. No, I mean, I would guess that the black smoke coming from Charlie's side, Charlie Bravo corner there, is from like a gable end on the other side. But that could be an opening. But in that case, you would have fire extension throughout the house.
Mm-hmm. Which it doesn't appear to have.
It doesn't. I wouldn't guess that. So I would assume that's coming from like a gable end or something. But I mean, and then you would know that from doing your 360.
Mm-hmm.
If you have involvement in that part of the house, or if it's just from the attic. But I mean, in my context, we would never anticipate having like a roof collapse or like an interior roof collapse behind us from an attic fire. I would like maybe, but I mean, maybe I could picture it in some situation. But I mean, that's highly unlikely. But I know that American construction is much more flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that could happen, especially if you start flowing water and you start soaking it down, then you get everything coming down. But just from fire, I mean, the insulation would protect, even if it's just a gypsum board. Wouldn't the insulation in your context protect that fairly well from the fire in the attic?
It might. Again, it depends on the age of the building, what part of the country. There's huge variance from one area to another with what you might encounter.
Yeah. So let's say they push down, they knock the fire down on the first floor. They have extension through a hole up in the fire compartment. It's extended up in the attic. What would be your it's confirmed empty. Let's just take that aside. Let's just say it's confirmed empty. They done a search, or if they don't do search, if it's confirmed empty. Otherwise, what would be your next assignment for the attic fire?
Well, for us, the first assignment would be to get water on the fire, and in this case, through the front door. And they would search on their way to the fire, and then in the fire compartment and deal with what's going on there. Our next assignment would be to put a company on deck out front so that we meet our requirements for 2 in, 2 out. And then the assignment after that would be primary search and check for extension. So that would be searching the rest of the house and checking for extension in the attic beyond the area of the original fire compartment. The guys in the fire compartment, if they know that they've got a breach in that ceiling and the fire's extended into the attic, they're going to be pulling ceilings there and putting water up into the attic. And my expectation would be is either A, the fire goes out, in which case I'm probably not going to hear anything until I ask them for a can report, or if the fire doesn't go out and they're having a problem with that because of a distribution of water problem, that they can't get water on where the fire is, that they would give me a priority traffic radio report that says we've got a working fire in the attic. We're applying water with limited effect, and then they would state what their needs are. We need another company to pull ceilings toward side Bravo, for example, and then I could get a company assigned to that task.
So you would wait for their request? Because I would assign, if we've knocked down the first floor and the search is done, I would assign a company straight away to in this case, probably Charlie Bravo corner, to punch a fog nail through there just to get water on that volume of space closest to the fire compartment, to try to slow that down anyway. And I wouldn't wait for the interior crew to report if they have progress or not.
Well, I guess it also depends on as they're working, and I'm looking at exterior conditions, and do I see things getting better or not? If they're not getting better and not getting better in that corner, as you say, then that definitely is a very solid option to that doesn't impact on them. I'm not sending them more help because they haven't asked for it yet, but I'm addressing a problem in a different part of the building. So that's definitely is a positive option.
Yeah, and I mean I could do it just as a pre. I totally agree that. I mean, if the improvements seem really good, but I would probably still commit a fog nail there. I would just tell them not to flow water if we're concerned about water damages, just as a precaution. So it's positioned there. So if the fire in the attic starts to pick up, it's going in the wrong direction, you can always just turn it on and flow some water for 10-15 seconds and knock that down, and buy yourself more time to build up resources.
And for that matter, given that you've got that dark smoke also pushing from the gable on the Alpha Bravo corner, given limited resources, I could even have the apparatus operator from the first in engine put a small ladder up to that and stick a fog nail in there, because we've got those. We don't have them pre-connected yet on the rig, but that too will be coming. But he's got 200 feet of 1 inch or 25 millimeter hose in the engineer's compartment with the fog nail attached to it. And all he's got to do is roll those out and stretch that over and stick it in. So that could be something that even with very limited staffing, that we could do to help slow that fire in the attic.
Yeah. I mean it's not going to solve the problem, but it is everyone is resource weak in the beginning, and that's going to slow it down. You address the gaseous problem, and then you can thoroughly methodically attack that fire by. I wouldn't tear down the whole ceiling of that house, but I would at least make holes in it to get access to it. But you don't want to do that until you have sort of a reasonable chance of addressing the gaseous space, because if it is a sleeping fire up there, it's just going to get mad. Mm-hmm. You start making even more holes. So you want even if I don't use the fog nails or whatever piece also you have, but even if I don't use the fog nail, I would still feel much more confident that if smoke start to pick up, I can just address it immediately by cooling this guy.
And for that matter, one of the things these guys chose to stretch in right away. Again, what we can't see is what other companies are on scene exactly, because the video camera view is only looking in a limited number of places. But for us, if they show up with 3 people and they have no persons reported and they have no indication that there's somebody in there, they can't go in until they get some more help. It would have been entirely reasonable for them to go over to that area right near that window where we saw the flaming combustion, drill a hole in the wall and stick a fog nail in there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would be or it might be that let's say like you say, you have a limited staff situation, but it also might be that you are 2 in 2 out to address it, but there is a more pressing concern on Charlie's side. Whatever it might be. There might be someone who needs to rescue you, needs to do a VEIS out of window, whatever. And so you're not enough people to commit both the VEIS and the interior fire attack, and you would have to go through the window. But you don't want to break it, because if you break it and you have fire extension further into the house, now you're going to make it worse further into the house, even if you suppress the first fire compartment. And then you, again, then you punch in a fog nail, let it flow in there for 10 seconds, because 10 seconds is not going to create a hazard for potential victims, because you're going to have contractions throughout most of that time. So even if you're creating steam, it's just going to go inwards towards where the fog nail is. So you have the option, even if you have enough manpower to commit to do two things at the same time. You can address the fire compartment in a way that you don't risk making it worse, I would say. But you can also do other more prioritized tasks, or equally a prioritized task.
And I guess that, the difference between our patch and the guys in this particular video is that they had, I think, about 3 engines and a truck company and a battalion chief that all showed up in a fairly short period of time. Where for me, getting that level of resources would probably be 20 or 25 minutes.
Yeah, and it would be at least 15 minutes here also. I mean, you would have the firefighters for the first 15 minutes, or at least 10. Oh, no, it's probably 15 minutes. So you are resource weak. You can only, I mean, if you commit to an interior attack, that's roughly what, I mean, you can nudge things and do things on the outside with like the driver and so on, but it's not really allowed. It's like you're nudging in loss. But if you're not committing an interior attack, now you can do multiple things. So the interior attack is, of course, our ace in the. It's like the ace in the card deck. It's the best. It's the thing that makes us unique. But it doesn't mean that that's always the right thing to do, because again, it's very resource intense. Rather, you can do a VEIS in a non-smoke filled space. Plus, you can do a dry chem attack on one side, and you can do a fog nail attack, and you can address the attic with 5 people, each individual doing it, or you can do one single entry. So it is of course our A game, or like our. In many cases, this again things makes us unique to go interior, and it's the most important tool we have, at least eventually. But again, the downside is it's heavy on resources, and that's important for you, especially you. But I would say it's very important for me in my context too. Do you want to? I've gotta go. I got 2 minutes. Do you want to do? Just one question more that you had in the paper, or do you want to call it quits?
No, I think that's probably good. There was a water supply thing, but that's not a really complicated issue.
That shouldn't be a water. I mean, 3,000 liters on that fire should be enough to get going for a long time, I would say.
And I think they did address it with the water that they had, because it was quite a while before they did deal with that issue.
I mean, you're not flowing. I mean, if you're flowing 500 liters per minute, or 600, 700 even, if you're flowing 200 gallons per minute, which is a lot of water. I mean, you're not continuously flowing that for 5 minutes. So I mean, tank water gets you a lot of good suppression capabilities. So I don't know what. I understand that you can't use that, but I have the same problem in Sweden. When somebody goes like, "Well, we used 5 tankers on a house fire," I go like, "Where did you put the water?" Like, obviously you didn't put it into the house.
Or it would be full.
It would be full of water. Like, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I mean, of course there's situations where it's very hard to get access. But with the simple tools, like if you don't have an open window so you could get it in, oh well, you use a fog nail. And most most rooms are accessible from the outside. If we're talking single residential house, how many single residential house do you have rooms that you have to access from the inside? That's like, well, bathrooms maybe that doesn't have a window, or maybe it has no access. It's just centered located. It doesn't have access to exterior walls. But most of all the important rooms have access and even windows, so you can get water in. If you can get water in, I guess the problem you're doing is you're sequentially attacking the fire, or you're just statically attacking the fire. You're just flushing water through the same opening for 5 minutes.
Well, and I think in a lot of cases there's some of that goes on is when people are applying water and it doesn't have the desired effect, so they just continue doing it, figuring if they do it for longer, that will have the desired effect. Which Einstein had some things to say about that. If you're not
effective in 10 seconds what you're doing, or possibly 15, you are not being successful. Abort and do something else.
And you know, again, the thing with that is either lack of flow rate or inadequate distribution. And as you and I have talked about before, more often than not, it's inadequate distribution, particularly given the flow rates that we work with in the United States. If the fire's not going out, you're probably in the wrong place. And,
I would just add to that one. If it's a really involved fire that you have to sometimes simultaneously address multiple compartments, you can't sequentially extinguish them because they feed each other, especially in open floor plans. Like, you have to address semi-connected open half open floor plan rooms at the same time. You can't sequentially attack them or you will fail. So I would just add that one. I didn't think we had talked about that one last time.
You know, I think in some respects that may take a higher flow rate, but it's still a distribution problem.
It's still absolutely still a distribution problem, because you could have 150 liters in each of those rooms, and together they would form more than one. But you can also flow 700 in one room, and you will fail. Totally, you might need 700, maybe, if there's a lot of windows open, because you simultaneously attack that fire. Maybe you need 700, but you don't need 700 in each room. There is not a room in the world that you need 700 liters a minute in, 250 gallons a minute. There's
in a house.
In a house, yes. You need gymnasium or an industrial or a store. Yeah, absolutely, you need more water. But we're talking like even if I just big great room, there's, I mean, you could need 700 liters a minute if you're only using 100 of it. If you're flowing it so that everything flows out in the street, in that case you probably need 700. But if you're hitting a surface that's hot, if you're creating droplets with the surface you're hitting, or if you have a fog and you create droplets from the nozzle, and you actually get distribution over the volume, you should be able to suppress it with way less. Okay, I need to go.